Good evening and welcome. I am Golda Lee Bruce and this is the 7 o'clock news here on CNC3.
Good evening. Glad you can join us. I'm Samson Anton.
Good evening. I'm Roger Sant.
In the headlines tonight, the National Security Minister and the top cop meet with Laventille residents. Businessmen Ishwa Galbaransing and Steve Ferguson go to court to get charges dropped under Section 34, even as the president signs to repeal it.
The Education Ministry concerned that students have become collateral damage in tutor negotiations. Millions go up in flames as several businesses are destroyed in Tunapuna. Police probe link between a fire and the recent murder.
And in sport, the Prime Minister announces cash awards for successful Olympians.
We begin with news that the Ministry of Education is tonight reporting that 65% of the nation's secondary school teachers and 75% of the primary school teachers were absent from the classrooms today. Teachers were out in their numbers outside the CPU's office today, leaving many classrooms across the country unmanned. The Education Ministry says while 25% of primary school teachers and 35% of secondary school teachers were on the job, it remains concerned that the majority of teachers have stayed away. In fact, it goes as far as to say that within the first 10 days of the new academic year, teachers led by their union tutor have taken 3 days away from the children's education. Education Minister Dr. Tim Gopi Singh says it is regrettable that the education of the nation's students has now become collateral damage in the ongoing dispute between tutor and the chief personnel officer. He's urging teachers, even as negotiations with tutor continue, that they continue to show
him and the before the courts. However, Dr. Rowley says the AG's utterances in Parliament are now the best defense for such persons against the state.
He went out of his way to link the Parliament's attempt to legislate to revert the matter to August 27th. He made specific reference in detail to the matters of Piaku.
The opposition leader explains that he has no other choice but to think that under the stewardship of AG Ramlogan, the state would not put its best foot forward in the upcoming related legal matters.
We have enough in front of us to make us not be convinced that the Attorney General will argue convincingly enough to overcome the arguments of those persons.
I am Chester Zambrano, reporting for CNC3 News.
And as we mentioned to you in the headlines this evening, National Security Minister Jack Warner, along with the heads of all the national security agencies, are at this time meeting with the residents of Laventille to get their perspective on how crime in the area can be reduced. Cameraman Manu Ragbir and reporter Chester Zambrano were in Laventille and they filed this report.
With 5 murders recorded in Laventille within 48 hours last weekend and growing concerns about the rising spate of crime in the community, National Security Minister Jack Warner led a team into the area this evening as he issued a clear ultimatum to gang leaders.
All those gang leaders who are listening, I want to tell them again, they have 2 choices. Put down their arms. Put down their arms. Give it up. And come back in society. Put down your arms, give it up, and come back to society, or else it's a fight to the finish. And it's a fight that the law and order in this country will not lose.
Minister Warner said there needs to be a change in mentality and saying new laws would help fuel that process.
Very soon, a law is coming where wearing your pants on your bottom will be against the law. Very soon. If we have to pass a law to tell you how to dress, we shall do that. We shall do that. Because it begins there. Some men, and what is even worse, some of them have the most filthy drawers.
Also addressing residents who gathered at the John John basketball court was Acting Police Commissioner Stephen Williams, who assured that the police will be attempting to forge a greater relationship with the residents. And in doing so, he asked the residents just what they need from the police.
When we find out how we can improve the community, find ways and means of working with all the other stakeholders, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, to bring the change that is necessary to improve Laventille.
Commissioner Williams said a softer approach to policing would now be taken, and even took a different approach as he called for more love in the community.
Bring down the power of love, I say. Bring down the power. The power of love, I say, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Bring down the power. Love to heal a nation is the greatest power.
Residents are now being asked to tell the security forces what they think would reduce crime in the area. I am Chester Sambrano, reporting for CNC3 News.
We now join Roger Santis here to give us some hints as to what we can expect in our sportscast later on. Roger.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Golda. And it doesn't seem to be getting any slower for our national Olympians. Last evening, they were honored by the Prime Minister. Today, 8 of them receiving their national awards, their Independence Awards from President George Maxwell Richards. That and much more later in sport. Golden Sampson, back to you.
Thank you so much, Roger. Of course, we just heard from Chester Sambrano and another hard-working reporter on the scene, Samson Nanton.
Thank you so much, Golda. Before we go on, though, the question you are voting on tonight, we want to ask you once again to vote on this. Do you think teachers have legitimate grounds to stay away from classes? Text your response to the number 2623. If you want to vote yes, you text Y. If you want to vote no, text 10. We'll give you an update as we go along and the final result at the end of tonight's news. Now, just ahead on the CNC3 News, police probe a link between a recent murder and a multi-million-dollar fire in Tunapuna. The finance minister shows no increase in personal income tax in 2012. That's the 2012 budget. A group of beaten residents rise up above stigma of crime and violence to strike a positive note. And later we tell you the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, they are suing a French magazine. We'll tell you why. These stories and more when we come back.
Come celebrate Court's 21st birthday. It's going to be a fun time all month long. As part of our grand celebration, we're giving away $63,000 in cash, $21,000 each week. And what's more, you can join the fun in our Lucky Dip to win free installments, free delivery, 15% off your interest charges, or cash back in your hands. So come on in and have some cake and enjoy. It's the Court's 21st birthday celebration. See President Store for details. Court's, bringing value home.
As we continue, a multi-million-dollar fire in Tunapuna has left several businessmen counting their losses. Tonight, even as investigators probe the link between a recent murder and the fire, businessmen who lost everything in the late-night flames also say the fire has thrown workers on the breadline. We have more from Samuel McKnight.
Arson is suspected in a fire which destroyed a Tunapuna business place, which housed 3 stores and a former recreation club, which was used as a storeroom. Over $2 million worth of clothing, household items, and other valuables all went up in smoke.
At the end of it, all the goods what we had here, it's people goods. Goods that are